Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of What If Civilization Started Over. Now, it's actually been a while since I last recorded, as I haven't recorded in around, almost a month. But anyways, let's get right into this video. So, the first thing we will be seeing is actually a war between these two countries. Now, if we go ahead and check the alliances, they are actually in the opposite alliance. So, it's not really, well, it is a war. It's just like a part of the World War. But anyways, the Lesotho country, the stronger one, will actually get the first attack, and they will quickly push, and they will actually mainly focus in the north to cut off their access to their other allies that are on their side, and so this will quickly cripple them, and then slowly but surely these guys will start to fall. Now, when they get to one major city left is when their military actually activates, starts pushing back, which they get to around there before it becomes a stalemate. And in fact, with that stalemate, there is some advances by the purple country. So now we will have to see the Madagascar country invade this blue country right here in order to make sure that the Lesotho country does not get invaded. And this will actually go pretty well, as they will take over all of that, and then the Lesotho country will make their own invasion, as we can see over here, and they will actually get pretty far in before being stopped around there, as the blue country does manage to take back both of their major cities. Now, if we go to a different place, aka over here in Mongolia, we will actually see them have to leave the Square Alliance. Now, no, they are not joining the diamonds or triangles. They are just fully leaving the war. Why? Well, if we go over to the religion map, we see them split up into 3 different religions. So we will actually see 3 different rebellions happen. Well, actually 2, as the dominant religion in the Mongol country will not rebel away, but we will see that this religion will go ahead and rebel away in most of their land, actually. And the dominant religion here is this Green Siberian religion. So we will have to go ahead and see the other religion make their rebellion over here, as we see them quickly start to take over this coastline. And yeah, so they will take over 3 major cities as fast as they can. And Hokkaido is thinking about invading Mongolia, but at the same time, Mongolia is second in the world, while Hokkaido is 12th. So that would be way too hard for them to fight against. Now, in fact, we will see the third religion rebel away, as we see them quickly seize the capital region and much of the north. And this is really their starting grounds, and then they start invading into the Mongol land. And after the capital is taken, they're really just saying, okay, well, main religion, you will take over the country. So just take as much land as you can. And that they will do. So they will get to around there before the other two religions start invading. And the pink group will actually get a major city. Then these guys will start to push up in the north, taking over all of those northern regions. And then they will actually also go ahead over there and get that. But now we will see the rest of it fall over to these guys. So now let's go ahead and see a peace treaty. And so this is the peace treaty of the rebellion. As we see, the orange country actually got most of the land, as I had said they would. The pink rebellion got most of the lands that they had invaded, besides this one province, as the orange country had invaded the major city, so I gave that to them. And the farthest rebellion over in where they had a coastline got all of this land. So let's give these countries capitals. And this country will have their capital right there. And these guys will get their capital right there. So now let's go ahead into a different area over in Asia. Well, it wasn't. The other stuff was in Asia, but this stuff is over in like the Middle East. So now we will actually see the Great Legion of Mesopotamia actually make their pushback, as they cut off these guys from the others and they start to push like that. And in fact, they fully kick them out of that spot and start to invade right here. So now it's still going successfully for the sultanates, but not as successful, not near as successful. So this is what the front line now looks like. And now we will go ahead and see what happens to these two countries as, well, actually this country as they're in the war. And in fact, we do see the other Scandinavian nation join this war on the side of the triangles because, well, they just hate the other Scandinavian country. So they will join, and immediately they get aid from Germany to invade these guys, as they were actually decently defended by Russia. But now, as there are more troops of Scandinavia than there is troops of Russia, we will see these guys get fully pushed and cornered. And real quick, if we go over here, I just want to show you that I actually made an HDI map. And these guys had an HDI ranking of 0.654, which falls in the green category. And there's a few countries with under 200 HDI. This northern Chilean country, and then there's also 4 African nations, and then there's one country over here with the name of Malaysia, or actually, no, not Malaysia anymore, Sumatra, with the worst HDI out of any country, at 0.178. Actually, no. These guys are not the lowest. There's actually this country at 0.098. And I actually forgot to give a few of these European countries their HDI rankings, but I will do that after this video. Anyways, let's continue on with what was happening, as I fully forget now. Oh yeah, over here. So, the Scandinavians will continue pushing, and at this point, the Russians really can't just get over there and save them, as most of Russia's troops are helping with Romania. And in fact, now we see a pushback happen over here in Adriatica, fully freeing them. And actually over here, we will see there be a unity between all of these guys, between these two countries, as the Greeks, Bulgarians, Adriaticans, Germans, Pink French, Sultanates, Carthaginians, Moroccans, and Iberians all agreed on this. And they also agreed to give them, I forget, Corsica or Sardinia. It's one of the two. I think this might be Corsica. No, that's Sardinia. This is Corsica. So this is what these guys will look like, and their capital will actually not be in the Roman region. It will be in this major city. So there's no more Rome, instead it's this blue country. In fact, I'm gonna darken their color just a little. Actually, a little more than that. So now they look like that. And I forgot one thing. This guy, the Mongolians lose their colony, obviously, because it collapsed. And it actually goes over to the Purple Australians. And seeing that, these guys are asking the Iberians if they can just take this. And the Iberians say, sure, as we don't really have a point for it, and because they took a good amount of the resources that were there already. So these two countries just got a whole lot bigger. In fact, if they united, they'd be pretty big. And if these guys united, the Purple Australians would be cooked. So now we will go over and see Rome deciding to go over here and push these guys back, as they are now turned around and their ideology will change. As well, their ideology did change after they just united. So now, with the help of the Romans over here, we see these guys able to actually make an encirclement, which will make these guys be pushed back pretty far, and they will start losing heavily in the Turkish front, while they will attempt to fully push back the Romans, which they actually succeed in. But the Romans just run into Turkish territory, the Sultanate territory, in order for them to reinvade on a stronger front. So now the Turkish region of the Sultanates are actually getting very far, and in fact the Caucasus country will start to invade. Now, we actually don't see them invading the Russians, as that was their original plan. But they immediately got pushed back, as if we check the rankings, Russia is actually still stronger than the Great Legion. So, that is actually becoming false pretty quickly, as we will actually see the Scandinavian country start to mass invade into Finland. So this will not go good for the Russians at all, as Kola is now taken over after it was cut off, and now we will see the full takeover of the Finnish regions. And in fact, with that happening, there is something that happens, as these guys are like, you know what, how about we take the Finnish regions, and then you can annex the other Scandinavian regions, well, most of it, and we will leave the war. And they say, sure. So now let's see the peace treaty between these two countries, as Scandinavia was only really in there for like a short term time, as they wanted to be, because they just wanted to quickly gain some land, which they actually gained more land than they thought. So good job to them. Now, the Scandinavian country that was up here, their islands will be taken over by the Scandinavians, by the other Scandinavians, I should say. And so, yeah. Now, immediately after this happens, the Scandinavians say, we were lying. We were never gonna leave the war. And they immediately re-invade into these Russian lands. And seeing this, the Russians get so mad that they just decide to fully focus in on invading this country over any other country. And as soon as that happens, these guys get heavily pushed back, as we see them being pushed back to only the most northern regions. So, the Norwegian / Swedish country will decide to actually annex it without the permission of Russia, because now they have a lot better access over here. And yeah, so now we will actually see these guys start to just be invaded by the Germans. Actually, I need to do that in a different color. So they are fully taken over by the Germans instead of the Adriaticans. So the Adriaticans can actually focus more of their army onto Romania. Now, seeing everything that's happened in the past little bit, these two countries are saying, hey, should we just unite? That would make it a lot easier for us to invade other countries like Romania. And the Greeks are like, you know what? Sure, why not? And so this is the new Greek / Bulgarian country. And so that means that this country will be led by both, or no, just Isaac Newton, I guess. And these guys will be led by Jackie. So, yeah, we do see that all happen. And now we will actually also go ahead and see something else that happens, which you could also say in a different way, is the invasion of Romania for the second time, as we see them immediately encircle these two major cities fully. They don't even let them border their actual country. And now we see the Romanians, they're gonna fall down to around this, as the Adriaticans just sent all their troops through these guys. So this will be very bad for these guys, and they will continue pushing. And the Romanians are like, hey, Russia, could you try and unite with us if you can? The Russians are like, nope, we're too busy. We have our own front to fight. And now, immediately hearing that, the Persians are like, yes, you do. And following that, the Persians will go ahead and quickly invade into these regions. And seeing how they're kind of spearheading toward the Crimeans will go ahead and make their own spearhead, and they will fully take over this region, or this area, not region. So, yeah. Now the Crimeans will start their full-scale invasion of Russia, and at this point, Russia needs help. There's one country willing to swap sides. Now, what country is that? This country actually is not in the war, but they are very, very strong. In fact, this country is none other than Pink France. So, the Pink French will join the side of the Great Legion, as now we see the side of the Great Legion have the 5th strongest, the 4th strongest, and the 3rd strongest, while the Indians are the strongest country in the world and invading the Diamonds. And in fact, we see every country over here start to be invaded by the Triangles. Now, yeah, we actually see the Tibet country end up just sweeping through Myanmar. And at this point, Thailand realizes they should not have joined the war. So they say, hey, we're leaving the war. Bye. And that actually helps the Vietnamese for a little bit, as now these guys have a longer time to get over to them. But in a shocking turn of events, the Thai country did leave the World War, but they still invade the Vietnamese. So they will quickly go ahead and fully take them over, forcing them to surrender and forcing them to be fully annexed. Now, this is insane stuff by Thailand over the past few episodes, as they have greatly increased in size. And they just took over probably the strongest country in the region that Thailand is in, besides Thailand, when there was a lot of countries. And now we will actually see Thailand continue their continue their rampage, as they will get to around here until they will, well, be easily pushed back by one of the weaker countries in the world. And this weaker country also used to be one of the stronger countries. So why would they be pushed back by a weaker country if they are so strong? Well, as you can see, immediately after being invaded, the Vietnamese will rise up and take over tons of land in this region. And now we will actually see them make more countries or more regions decide to rise up, as we see all of these just random areas rising up. So, why does this happen? Well, with all of the mass expansion going on by these guys, these regions felt like they were starting to get neglected by the Thai country. So they decided that it was enough and that they want to be their own country. So this is really like the outline of all these countries, what they would look like. Now, that country will definitely look more like that, probably, while these guys will look like that, and you get it. But the Thai country does fall, and we will have to see this piece. So this is what happens to the Thai country as they get a lot of land taken away from them, as you can see right here. And real quick, let me just fix whatever happened over there. And yeah. So now let me check provinces for any mess ups. Okay, right over here. So this is what happens to the Thai country as they are now very, very crippled, as they just lost a ton of land. And in fact, this middle country will just join up with them, and these guys will join up with them. So now there's actually 2 less countries in this region. And yeah. So let's give these guys capitals, as these guys will actually put their capital in the inside spot, unlike these guys who actually put their capital right there. So now we actually see something happening to India, which is actually also rebellions. Now, most of it's just in the south, but there will actually be one rebellion in the north, specifically in this region. So this will actually be getting a lot of land, and right here is where the Indians say, okay, just take what you've already taken. And now, the reason why the Indians said this to these true rebellions is because, well, they would have just not been able to stop them, as most of their army was in Pakistan, and actually going through Persia to attack the Great Legion. So let's go ahead and see this peace treaty. So now this is the peace treaty over in India, as these two countries are decently large and they take out two big chunks of India. So anyways, now we will actually go over to these guys, who at this point have fully collapsed. Now, seeing that these guys collapsed, the Lesotho country decides to fully push those guys, which is actually successful, and now their front in Africa is getting stronger. But there's one thing. Most of Africa decides that being in this war will just make them, well, lose pretty much everything. So all of these countries, especially the ones that have already been taken over, will leave the war. And they say, go ahead, make a peace treaty, we'll accept it. So yeah, let's go ahead and see this peace treaty, which will actually also be the final thing that happens in this episode. And so this is the peace treaty of this region, as we see that the blue Nigerians gained some areas over there, and we also see that these guys lost a little bit of land, and then we also see that these guys got this country, but then they lost this province, and then these guys up here lost that province, and yeah, that's pretty much all that happened over there. Now over here, it's a different story, as I'm actually going to real quick take the other color and I'm just gonna make it into them. So yeah, I hope that doesn't confuse anybody, but it probably will. And in fact, seeing that the Madagascar country is taking over a good amount of countries, these guys decide, as a reward, they'll give them 3 of their most northern provinces, which aren't really that much, which don't really have much resources, but also at the same time they kind of do. So yeah, and this is the new big country down here, and in fact these two are just thinking about maybe uniting, and in fact they aren't thinking anymore, as they have chosen to unite into one country. And they have this like dark teal type color. So yeah, and this quickly becomes like one of the African superpowers, along with Morocco, Carthage, the Sultanates, Ethiopia, the trio, and well, now them, as they will keep their capital over in Madagascar. Now, for the colonies, we will actually see a little bit of them end up breaking away into their own countries, specifically in true countries. So this is what happens to Pink France's North American colony. And as you can see, their middle lands have not been taken by any country, and this is because, well, the Texans want it, and so do the Californians, and they decide that maybe it'd be easier if they united. So we will see the third and final unity for a long time, or well, I'm planning to have it be a long time, so hopefully I do that. And yeah, so they unite and they end up taking over these lands. Anyways, that will be all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like, and if you want to see more of my videos, subscribe and turn on notifications, and comment down your favorite country in the world. Peace.